Old Grognard says, "Here's why I have magic item dealers in my games." I was originally going to do this as a long video that also explains how I run the magic item dealers. However, this is the fourth Wednesday of the month, so I'll just cover why I think this is a good idea. The part on how looks like a good fit for next week since there are 5 Wednesdays this month. So next week I'll go into depth on how I run the vendors, but for now I'll give you a quick summary so my talking points have some context. The basic magic item dealer in my game is the apothecary. Since they have jars, bottles, and boxes full of various materials they use in their day job, it isn't much of a stretch to think they would sell spell components as well. It's also not much of a stretch to think that they may dabble in magic themselves and might have some potions or scrolls for when things get rough, or to sell if the price is right. They'll also sell items on the behalf of others on a commission basis. So in game terms, this is so that the PCs have a central point of contact to buy spell components and magic items without having to run all over the place. From an in-world perspective, this also makes some sense. If you were a 0-level human and wanted to sell a magic item, you'd probably have an expert do it on your behalf rather than do it yourself and get in over your head. In larger settlements, there may be a dedicated magic item seller, but in most of the smaller ones, the apothecary fills that role. Regardless of which merchant the characters visit, the items available are appropriate for levels 1 through 4. In 5e, this would be common or uncommon items. If the players want more powerful stuff than that, they can get it the old-fashioned way. So finally, my reasons for magic item vendors. They can be split into 2 broad categories, which are player motivation and world building. On the player motivation side, the most obvious effect was that the players would find out a merchant had some item they wanted, and they would be motivated to find a way to get it. This led to players actively looking for side quests to get enough gold to buy the items they wanted. Speaking of gold, due to obvious reasons, gold was no longer useless. A third related and unintended consequence of this was that since the vendor would buy magic items, the party getting a quote useless magic item was no longer a letdown. Instead, they would look at it and say something along the lines of, "I wonder how much we can get for this," or something about trading it for the thing that they want. On the world building front, players would often ask about the items the vendors had. This allowed me to explain lore through the vendor. This might be something about where the item came from, or that it is good for fighting thing X. The players were more receptive to lore drops in this way because, well, they asked. If they found items, the vendors could identify them and give the players lore about them as well. I came to some other conclusions after I finished running the last series of adventures. The first was that having a predictable way to get items for a character is a secondary form of advancement compared to gaining levels. This had the effect of the players not being too wrapped up in when they would get their next level. From what I could tell, this was because they were still making progress in the form of being able to get new stuff for their characters. The other conclusion didn't come from me, but from one of the players. She asked the other day if I still had the tables I used to run the vendors in that last game. She said she really liked the part where the vendors would occasionally sell items and get new ones. I put this in as a feature on the table to make the inventories shift over time to keep them from getting stale and didn't think much else about it. To the players, though, this made the world seem as if there was stuff happening even when they weren't looking. It made it seem just a little bit more real. This reminds me of a line from the D6 Star Wars 2nd Edition rulebook regarding how to run adventures. It says, "The adventure revolves around the players, but the galaxy does not," or something to that effect. So like I said earlier, next week I'll go into how I run the vendors. I'll also post the tables I use in the video description so you can copy and paste them for your own use. They're rough and unfinished, but I have faith in your ability to fill in the blanks and tweak the tables to work for you and your world. If you have questions or would like to post about your own magic item vending experiences, leave a comment. Thanks for watching. Old Dognard and I would like to wish you a wonderful rest of your day.